All right, we should be live, guys. Let's wait for it to roll in here and everybody to hop on.
We're live.
So, is it true that she's back? She's
Shady's
back.
back again. Okay.
Oh, Eminem's cool. Hillary Clinton likely jumping in as Mini Mike's
The Hildebeest.
pick that's not cool.
Crooked Hillary is back.
Are we live,
Let's
Patrick,
see
or
if
what?
everybody pours in here or not. I'm not.
Yeah,
getting
Yeah,
going.
we're live.
It's
we're
going.
live.
All right, no
We're live.
notifications. Here we go. Oh, let's see. Oh, I got a lot of noise over here. We're switch this off. Yeah. Well, so I've just noticed that because old pervy Joe Biden is drastically being destroyed right now,
Thank you.
and because the DNC doesn't want Bernie Sanders as their pick, that old Michael Bloomberg, who apparently has changed his name to Mike Bloomberg.
Mike, yeah, it's all of a sudden it's Mike.
All of a
Mini
sudden,
Mike.
Mike. Because Mike sounds like a regular guy.
Right.
Michael Bloomberg makes him sound like an elitist prick worth $70 billion, which is exactly what he is. But when you call him Mike, apparently all of that stuff just disappears.
It's supposed to be relatable to all the people across Pennsylvania and Ohio. It ain't working. It ain't working.
Well, he's all over the freaking news down here in Georgia. I know that. All over the radio. He's got 8 offices opened.
Yep.
He's
Yeah.
surging in the polls, so to speak. We'll see what happens. He's trying to buy his way in, I guess.
We should do a mic check. If people hear us okay before we get too deep into this show?
Yeah. Can everybody hear us, guys? Let us know down in the comments if you're all in. If you can hear us, let us know, folks.
We're trying to start some watch parties here a minute, guys, before we get too deep into this broadcast.
Yeah, we're getting everybody on here. What's happening? I mean, that's the big question. You know, you got Crazy Bernie, you got Big Pete, Little Pete, whatever we want to call him.
It's Pete Buttigieg. Come
Booty
on.
gig.
We gotta
I've
get
heard-
this straight. It's Pete.
I've heard
Buttigieg.
some far more colorful
Yeah.
explanations.
Did you see that meme that came out yesterday and it said meet your prospective first ladies, and it shows Melania Trump all slicked up, and then it shows Pete Buttigieg's husband, and then it shows Joe Biden's like nasty old wife, and is like, who would you pick?
Yeah. You know, I saw a thing on Twitter the other day, and it was I'll have to look it up. It was some acronym for if Pete Buttigieg was
Yeah.
was the first whatever. It was like the Flaglotus or something.
Oh, nasty.
I don't even know what the acronym was.
First gentleman of the United States.
Yeah.
is
Just
on it. It's just.
That's
I mean,
what it is.
it's so debauched. I mean, that guy is a sick dude. But it's so gross. I just hate the fact that they're trying to normalize this idea. You know, it's just like no, we're not Europe. We're not some crap hole over and across the pond. No, this is America. You know,
Yeah.
that stuff never founded a successful country before ever.
Well,
There's a reason for that.
Duh.
Yeah.
There's a reason for that.
I mean, maybe this is a little out of taste, but somebody said if Bernie Sanders or if Pete Buttigieg gets the nomination and he chooses Bernie to be his VP, it'd be like butt burn 2020 or something like that.
I know. It's so gross.
My eyes.
Yeah, I can't unhear that stuff.
I was listening to the radio the other day, or I guess yesterday or whatever it was. I don't know. I lose time sometimes, but this guy Buttigieg was Buttigieg was he wrote an essay, like was the John Kennedy essay scholarship winner. I think it was Rush Limbaugh or the guest host or whatever, and he was just praising Bernie Sanders. It was praising Bernie Sanders. He's like 17 years old. It was written in the year 2000. Believe it or not, he's only 37 years old. And he's just like, Bernie this, Bernie's great, he's a socialist, he's great. So there's really not, I think that's kind of where the country is right now, right? It's just like us versus them. You know, and the bad part about that is that we still have Republicans across the country passing freaking gun control every now and then. But still,
Well,
I mean,
the vast majority of these people are Mitt Romneys in the flesh.
yeah.
It's like they were all never Trumpers to begin with. They were all anti-Trump, you know, all over the country. Oh, all these Republicans. Nah. Now that Trump is actually like doing something, now all of a sudden these people are all diehard Trump supporters. Well, nah, they're still the rhinos they were to begin with.
Speaking of that, you got the Daytona 500 tomorrow. Everybody's asking me about it. How many of y'all been to a NASCAR race before, by the way? I know NASCAR isn't what it used to be. They've had some idiocy.
Yeah, I went to a Bristol night run. That was pretty good. A long time ago.
A lot of practices. I actually used to do a lot of asphalt milling. I've milled the infields on several NASCAR tracks.
Really?
It's a lot of fun. Yeah.
Does Daytona have surely it has a runway there. I'm not sure it's big enough for Air Force One though. Like in the infield, can't they take the little planes there? Or maybe
in the infield? I don't know actually. I never saw that portion of it.
Okay. I've been to Talladega. It's huge. I think that's like 2.5 miles. It's just massive.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Trump's going to be there at Daytona tomorrow with the Beast, I think. I don't know.
That's confirmed now. That's legit. It's going to happen.
I don't know if it's the Beast, but he's going to be inside. They're not going to put him in the pace car unless he's in the air. You know, I doubt it.
That's true. Yeah.
I wish they just wrap the limo. Just wrap the limo and go with it.
Yes, exactly. And so I assume Daytona is pretty much always sold out unless there's a bunch of empty seats. But I bet you there'll be people running over there now knowing that he's coming in there. So,
yeah. Well, what do you mean? There's normally empty seats at Daytona?
Now, I don't know about Daytona, but NASCAR has just taken a big beating in the last 5
Well,
or 10
yeah,
years.
that's true. But the Daytona 500, that thing is always a sold out facility from what I remember.
Yeah, I think it's kind of the kickoff to the season.
Yeah.
And seems like everybody's pretty excited about it. But I think we should get into this Bloomberg stuff since we're actually here talking guns. We could talk guns and Trump, but
and welcome to everybody watching from Ohio and Pennsylvania and all across America tonight. We just do this show. We're kind of changing up the format here a little bit. We're going to be a little less preachy, a little more conversational. So welcome to all of you and all the other states that are watching right now.
How many states we got watching right now?
Big go.
Let us know your state down there, guys. I'm in Georgia, right? Patrick Parsons with Georgia.
Yep.
You got Chris in Ohio, Aaron.
Well, we got Iowa gun owners, we got Ohio gun owners, Minnesota gun rights, Georgia. We got Missouri Firearms Coalition, Wyoming gun owners, Pennsylvania Firearms Association, got New York State Firearms Association. Big news for the guys in New York tonight. Get that in a little bit. We got a lot of gun guys.
Who knows? Maybe someday there'll be the Florida Firearms Association. Maybe we'll have.
Well, holy crap, they need it. You see that news out of Florida that came on Drudge?
Yes.
Absolutely.
We should talk about that before.
Let's get into it then. Let's get into our first.
Well,
topic.
what was it? I was at the Tampa Times. Whatever. I'm not sure which news source it was, but 35. Oh, I forgot. Greg is chiming in. Greg is ticked off. He says, "Guys, you're leaving me hanging here." I forgot we had the Idaho Second Amendment Alliance and a lot of news out of Idaho. We'll discuss that in a little bit here today. And Washington Gun Rights is in the house. Our apologies.
The Wisconsin Firearms Coalition.
Our friends in Madison and across the Cheese State are watching tonight.
There's just too many. There's just so many.
Well, there's not enough. There's not enough is what I was going to say. You know,
a lot of gun guys.
And if there's anybody in Hawaii watching right now who wants me to come out and ball bust some legislators out there for trying to pass some gun control, it's February in Ohio. It's actually a little chilly. I'd be happy to hop on a plane and come out there and help.
Yes. Make it happen.
Well, that was the big article today that I saw in Drudge. Say 3,500 people have had their firearms taken away from them in the Sunshine State since the implementation of red flags. I'm not sure. Probably it was July 1st is my guess. It was 2018 they passed it. It was March of 2018 when they passed it. So my guess is it would probably take effect July 1st, which would be the way it works. So you're talking, year and a half, 19 months, 3,500 people have had their firearms taken away. for life in most cases in Florida. And the article even was somewhat honest. It even said how multiple people who were hit with the red flag still committed suicide or still killed somebody else, showing the ineffectiveness of a red flag gun seizure. It was right there in the article.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't have to have this article come out from Florida in order to see what red flags does to a state. I think was it Massachusetts or Connecticut that has had it since 1999, and it has shown no difference over that entire period of time. Right. And so,
well, the entire way it's structured is just stupid. I mean, if the whole idea is to stop suicides, just taking somebody's guns and driving away, if somebody's in like a suicidal crisis, taking their guns and driving off ain't going to do anything. Ain't going to stop them.
Yeah. Maybe
everybody knows what this is. They're just trying to take away guns from people left, right, and center. And if they've got 3,500 people they've hit in one state, then geez Louise, this is only going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. It's a disaster.
Maybe they're going to red flag the entire crowd at the Daytona 500 over there tomorrow afternoon.
Well, they can. I mean, honestly, that's the problem here. This is why we've been fighting so viciously against all these Republican legislative leadership teams, all these Republican losers in Ohio, now in Pennsylvania and in Iowa and all over Minnesota. I'm sorry, Ben, I almost left you out there. But it's Republicans that passed everything that Aaron was just talking about down there in Florida, So this is why we fight these schmucks.
Well, I keep hearing too, it's like, this is important, because people keep saying, make Minnesota red, turn Minnesota red. Yeah. It's like, look, there are some good ones and some bad ones. If you want to vote for President Trump, I understand. But for pity's sake, we got Republicans all over the place who are sponsoring gun control, and nobody's saying a word about it because, well, they are Republicans. I would rather have a Democrat sponsoring gun control than a Republican sponsoring gun control because we have a much better chance to stop it. So, man, it's those sometimes those down ticket voting just slaughters your freedoms. Just because you're voting for Trump.
Well, I think everybody's always kind of assuming, our previous generation always kind of assumed that it was always just, D versus R, but that's just totally done now. That just doesn't exist anymore. It's not D versus R. It's statist pieces of crap versus patriots who love their country. And all we get these days from a lot of these Republicans is a bunch of smug, in-your-face elitism while our country is burning. In some cases less, in some cases more. But all we have is these arrogant ass Republicans, whether it's in the state capitol in Cheyenne, Wyoming, where I was this week, or the state capitol in Iowa, where I was this week, or Chris is holding up his buddy Kyle Kaler, the biggest loser. Kyle Kaler, sorry. I mean, they're everywhere. And these people sit there and they want to just sit there and should be so grateful to be in their presence. And meantime, our country's burning. And these guys don't do a damn thing. So, what a joke.
Losers.
Yeah, we had a meme that we posted, Georgia Gun Owners. It's got the Patriot there, and it said it's not Democrat versus Republican. I think it said something like it's us versus them or something. Y'all may have posted it too.
Patriots versus tyrants.
Exactly, and unfortunately, it's for the most part R's and D's. But I think it's why it's incumbent upon us as gun rights leaders in the country here, but also y'all to crank up your discernment level. And I know it's difficult if you don't do this every single day, but crank up your discernment level when you're talking to these people, and don't just take, I'm for the 2A, man. Don't take that for an answer. I mean, we've been preaching that for years, but you can get these guys.
We live by the golden rule, this one golden rule in gun politics. And I'll tell it for you all right here, right now. It has served us so well in our dealings with all these legislators and all these leadership teams across America and all the wonderful states that we're fighting for. This is the question we always live by. If a member of the political class tells you something, we ask ourselves this question: if I believe them and do what they say, how does it benefit them? We live by that mantra. We live by that here at Ohio Gun Owners, Pennsylvania Firearms Association, Iowa Gun Owners, Minnesota Gun Rights, all these different states that are watching right now, Georgia Gun Owners, Idaho. And honestly, it's like when you have these conversations with people and you sit there and you ask yourself, wait, okay, so he just said that. How does it benefit that schmuck? He's a politician. If I believe him and do what he says, man, they're always all these groups
they don't even speak. These politicians don't even speak to you without trying to get you to do something or believe something that benefits them. They're don't even open their mouths.
Yes, they are sleaze bags. So just keep that in mind. If a member of the political class tells you something, how does it benefit them if I believe them and do what they say? It works like a charm.
Well, the other thing too is kind of in part and parcel with that is the way they always have their little ass-kissing organization in the state capitol prepared to back them up no matter what they do, no matter how much they betray the gun owners. They always have an organization on the ground in the capitol that always is there to protect them. And we discussed that a lot in the past, but I mean, it's to the point now. I used to actually try to care or tried to defend, for example, Iowa Gun Owners or the Missouri Firearms Coalition or various organizations I've had the pleasure of working with. When someone would say, well, Representative so-and-so says you're an a-hole. He thinks that you're a blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's to the point now, I think for most gun owners that if the gun rights organization in their state capital isn't being called an a-hole, that they kind of realize that's a problem. I mean, if we're not going to fight like dogs, then we might as well quit. Look what happened to Virginia. They fought like pacifistic school teachers, and they're getting their butt handed to them right now. And that's just the problem.
Oh, man, so I can soapbox on this.
I mean, I don't care where you're watching right now. If you're watching in Texas, if you're watching in Tennessee, if you're watching in one of the states you see in the screen here, if the gun rights organization you're not giving money to isn't being called a bunch of a-holes by politicians on both sides of the aisle, you're sending your money to the wrong place. I mean, it's just the way it works.
There's
some
people out there who think that they have some newfangled, enlightened idea that we should be above the fray, that we should welcome the conversations with folks who don't agree with us, that we should button up every button, that we should comb our hair over just so, that we should carry apples. That we should carry apples around with us for the teacher wherever we go. There's all these pretty little doofuses out there who think they're somehow more enlightened than the rest of us, who go, look, we can win this fight against a radical left. We can win this fight against socialism. We just have to do it with facts. And we have to do it by arguing the point in just such a way. And we just have to be these perfect little, it's so wrong. That's not a new idea, okay? Idiots who have tanked our country for the last 50 years have been doing that crap in state legislatures all across America and in Congress since way, 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 way before I was ever born. There's always a person willing to stand there and go, sir, yes, sir, no, sir, Mr. Sir, would you mind having a discussion about blah, 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 blah? They're all over the place. All these groups that Aaron was just talking about do the same thing. Always this just teetotaling, apple carrying morons.
Yeah,
If we're going to win against a radical left, against a socialist, communist, far left ideology and agenda that's being shoved down our throats, if we're going to win that, we got to roll our sleeves up and knock some freaking teeth out politically. We have to just bash their heads together, fight nasty, fight dirty, fight mean, and don't be afraid. Oh, man, all these people, we're better than this. We're better than this.
Yeah, exactly.
To highlight this, if from their perspective, if the goal of having these intellectual sophist BS conversations with people is to get them to finally agree with you, that would mean that in their minds, if you get enough people to agree, the politicians will see that there's so much opposition to gun control that they'll back off. Well, look at Obamacare in 2010 when it passed. Like Like 78 or 82% of the American population was opposed to it. So would 86% have been enough? I mean, come on. That's just absolutely stupid.
Yeah.
It's dumb. Moreover, the politicians want you to believe that because if you do, if you believe them and do what they say, you'll run around like an idiot trying to convince everybody you're right instead of hammering them, instead of coming at them with a political axe.
Yeah.
How it works?
True. In Minnesota, it's a guy named Lazy Rob who runs another gun rights group here, and he's just desperate to convince far left liberals that, like, whatever. And he's always up at the Capitol, crawling around on his hands and knees, trying to get under the table, trying to get politicians to believe what he says or to think the way he thinks. It's stupid. It's stupid. And that's how we've lost, because the left never bothers.
No,
the left never bothers. I never met a far left socialist who wanted to sit here and have a rational conversation about why socialism was great. They just want to bash you in the head and take your wallet. Okay? So unless we fight back that way, we're just doomed. We're just toast. We're just toast.
Yep.
Too many people like that on the right. Way too many. Time to wake up.
There's always some new idea. I mean, I probably don't have time for this right now tonight. I don't suppose, but there's a lot of talk about the multi-state compact clause trying to nullify federal gun control. And I was in the Capitol in Jeff City, Missouri, like 2 days ago, testifying for MOFC members on gun-free zone repeal and SAPO law down there. And I was asking Senator Burleson about that, because Senator Burleson in Missouri, for all the Missourians who are watching, you guys know he's the rock star. He's the best that Missouri's probably ever had when it comes to being a gun rights activist or gun rights legislator. And I mean, well, no, he is because he's the guy that did constitutional carry, city or ground law, castle expansion, lifetime permits, and every other damn thing you can think of. But I was asking him about that because he's done a bunch of multi-state compacts as elected official in Missouri. And so I asked him, I said, I know this is a gimmick. I know it's like only being used to get people some shiny new tool. What are your thoughts on this? He pulled out his Constitution out of his pocket immediately, goes to Section 1, Clause 3, and I looked at it. And it said, it's just one paragraph. It says, no state shall, without the consent of Congress, and then it gives 4 or 5 different things about keeping troops or ships, laid duty of tonnage. And it says, enter into any agreement or compact with another state. And it says, again, no state shall, without the consent of Congress, enter into any agreement or compact with another state. So I'm not sure which YouTube channel,
Where does it say that? The Constitution?
Yeah, Section 1, Clause 3.
And so,
And so there's this YouTube channel, and I can't remember
everywhere.
which one it is. This guy has everybody convinced that all we have to do is have these multi-state compact clauses, and then we're fine. And there's always someone trying to find some pixie dust magical cure to replace the hard work that it takes to fight for our freedom. And so this section is very clear. This is a great idea if Nancy Pelosi will sign off on it.
Yeah, I was going to say,
this
hello,
asinine.
Are you hearing this? We're talking about Nancy Pelosi.
And he also went on to tell me that there's another section that modifies this section that basically says that if this issue has not been touched on by federal law thus far, then they can do it pretty much as is. Well, is there anything that hasn't been touched now by federal law? Any issue? Dang sure not the Second Amendment. And so for anybody out there, and we're going to do a special video on this in Wyoming. It's a big issue in Wyoming. It's a big issue in Missouri right now. But for everybody who thinks that we can have this magical cure and pass a multi-state compact to nullify federal gun control, it's a delusion. It's a delusion. And I think to myself, maybe this is just me, but there had to be so many people back in the Revolutionary War who were walking around whispering into George Washington's ear or the Continental Congress, why, if we just tell the king this, or if we just agree to pay that, or if we just give him this excise tax, or there's got to be some easy way we can avoid war.
They
There's
had
gotta
a
be.
word for it back then already. They called those people backseat drivers. Get the hell out.
Backseat buggies.
Yeah.
There's no shortcut to the hard work of defending our freedom.
Right.
I mean, it's never been that way. This country was carved out of the these guys ice picked their way onto the stage, and they gave us a country by slaughtering English troops. That's just all there is to it. They just shot them. And you can't just use words sometimes when it comes to trying to fight for your freedom. So all these people who are following this guy on his YouTube channel, whose name I can't remember, saying, well, all we have to do is do this. Why? We'll be fine. That's crazy talk. Crazy. Dave, Dave's watching the IGO page. Dave wants to know, what are our thoughts on the effectiveness or lack thereof of Second Amendment sanctuary counties? Dave, we'll get to that in a minute. I don't want to monotonize the microphone right now. We'll get back to your question,
honestly,
Dave.
we're kind of going down that road here right now, talking about that other thing. But it's very important to understand. Unless anybody has a problem with us talking about this right now, let's just talk about it for a second.
Fine.
But
Go for it.
with these resolutions, obviously Virginia is in a very bad situation. They've got all this gun control being rammed down their throats right now, and they're looking for ways out of it. The difference between Virginia and a lot of different states is that they are passing ordinances in Virginia. Ordinances have the effect of law. So essentially what they do is Northam and his gang pass gun control. Well, at the local county level, they can pass these ordinances that say, absolutely not, your laws are null and void here in our county. And if you do try to enforce them, we will not only not enforce them ourselves, but we'll come after and arrest anybody who tries to enforce that state law that's antithetical to our freedoms. And so watching what all these people in Virginia are doing, a lot of states are starting to consider these themselves and thinking, oh, well, that's a good thing. We see that that's actually something people are doing. We should do that here. The problem is that all these other states are taking up what's called Second Amendment sanctuary resolutions. And I want to make this very clear. Resolutions do not have the force of law behind them. They are not something that a local police officer can actually enforce with his gun or his pair of handcuffs. And so a lot of these resolutions are getting passed, but at the end of the day, they do nothing to stop the gun control that is being foisted down people's throats from their state legislatures.
Yeah.
An example to just show how much of a gesture a resolution is for the folks who are watching in Missouri. Once the Chiefs won the Super Bowl, that next week there's a resolution sponsored in the chamber, both chambers, and it's basically, whereas the Chiefs are great, whereas we love Patrick Mahomes, whereas it's our first time in 50 years, whereas this is awesome that the Royals won the World Series like 3 years ago, now we have the Super Bowl today, whereas, therefore we declare today Chiefs Day throughout Missouri. And that's all it is. It's a feel-good gesture.
But it's even more dangerous than that, because, for example, in Ohio, there's a state representative. Her name is Diane Grendel right now. She is introducing a Second Amendment sanctuary resolution for the entire legislature. All of the Republicans and half of the Democrats are going to sign on to this because it says, like Aaron said there, whereas we believe in the Second Amendment, whereas people should always be free, whereas people should always be able to use an 870 to shoot ducks, therefore we declare Ohio a Second Amendment sanctuary state. The problem, however, is that exact same Republican also sent out a co-sponsor request for her own red flag gun confiscation law. You see, she wants the gun confiscation law to pass because it has the force of law, and she wants the Second Amendment sanctuary resolution because she can campaign at election time and say that she's pro-gun. It gives them cover. It gives the worst people in any state cover for what their true intentions are. And somebody in Pennsylvania, somebody like Tom Wolf would likely sign a Second Amendment sanctuary resolution because he would be able to sit there and say, yes, I support the Second Amendment. And that's why I signed the Second Amendment sanctuary resolution. And I also want red flag gun confiscation law. I want universal background checks. I want Bloomberg's entire smorgasbord of gun control. This is the case in every state in America. It's smoke and mirrors.
Yeah, I'll say something. I mean, I know a lot of the guys here, and there's tons of great gun owners out there. And you guys, I'm sure you experience this in your place where you live as well. I've tried to say ordinances, but it's like the proliferation of these things go so fast, right?
Yeah.
My chairman, Stuart Griffin, all of y'all know him. He's working on an ordinance in Crawford County. Georgia has like 150 counties or something like that. The problem is, and I see all the problems that y'all have laid out here, but I also see Georgia, we don't have this gun control, so I see some defeatism in this already, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? And a transfer of where the focus should be, which is the state legislature. The Georgia State Constitution says the General Assembly shall have the power to regulate guns, in a nutshell, right? And so that's where the focus should be. I don't have a problem with the guys, firing up and getting after their local county officials and getting people fired up, but it needs to be. And I've told guys this, and it doesn't mean they're bad people. It just means don't take the first bite from your county commissioners, the same guys who raised your taxes, the same guys who got all the backroom deals, even worse than they do at the legislature. But don't take the first bite of the apple, because to me, like I said, it shows a little bit of defeatism, and I don't like it. And we got to keep the focus on the Capitol. And
that's a great point, Patrick. I didn't mean to denigrate the efforts. I mean, a lot of these people, they just want to do something. They're so sick and tired of watching these nut jobs get control of government that they just want to do something. And so here's something that's local. It's right there in front of them. It's an easy victory. It's a quick win. They just want to do something for the Second Amendment. And I mean, we're not trying to denigrate that whatsoever. And like Patrick said, a lot of these legislatures, they have what's called a state preemption law, where the General Assemblies are reserved to themselves the right to regulate or pass any kind of gun law, and they forbid local municipalities from doing that on their own. And so you introduce this stuff into the equation, all of a sudden that state preemption law gets jeopardized. I mean, there's the possibility of that, and it's just sticky. It's sticky all the way around. The focus is at the legislature. That's where the threats are coming from. That's where the gun control bills are coming from. And that is where your rights are going to be stripped away from. Well, you can never be stripped of a right, but that's where they will pass laws that attack your rights.
Yeah, and you look at, here in Georgia, we've got Stacey Abrams. I don't know if she's going to be on a presidential ticket, but if she's not, she's going to look at the governor's mansion. I can tell you, if she wins the governor's mansion, that also means the Democrats are going to pick up a hell of a lot of seats. She will eat those resolutions and spit them right out. I mean, she's an attorney. She's super smart. She just doesn't care. You know what I'm saying? And so if you do this in your local county, it's got to be the force of law. It's got to be,
Yeah.
And
I think you got 4 or 5 things here going on at any one time. The first one, the biggest one, in my opinion, that one of you guys already mentioned this, is that it takes all the focus off of the state legislature.
Right.
And so I had a director of Oath Keepers call me yesterday or 2 days ago from Missouri, and he's pissed off that we're not pushing this. And that was my argument to him, was that we're in the middle of a gunfight now. Like, we're currently engaged. So we can't take our pressure off of the lawmakers. That's the first issue. The second one is, again, resolutions versus ordinances. And if you were to pass it, what are you actually passing? The third issue, though, is that, and Chris, you mentioned this a minute ago, maybe you know something I don't, but for the most part, these resolutions don't do anything to stop federal or even state police authorities from enforcing their own laws. They only say that the county officers and county budgets will not be used to enforce federal gun control. So they're not going to sit there and have a barricade on Main Street when the state police roll in the town trying to come and take away your firearms. So you got 3 or 4 issues at any one time where this is not the best use of gun owners' time, especially right now during session in so many of these states. The focus has to be on these lawmakers. I just hope to God that a fraction of those gun owners in Virginia that were involved in this from about November 6th or something last fall until the first of the year. I hope to God those people were putting out 4 or 5 emails a day into the House of Delegates and their state senator's office, reminding them that they're organized, mobilized, and they're going to drag 30 of their friends to the polls on election day. Because the truth of the matter is that in Virginia, to use that as an example, if the number of people who were involved in those rallies in those 6 weeks, those county level events, if those people had gone to the polls and drugged 4 or 5 of their friends with them, this would have been a non-issue in Virginia. It wouldn't have happened because it would have kept the chambers.
Yeah. You know what else? I've never seen a politician who signed their name to one of these things saying, I call on such and such a county to pass this Second Amendment sanctuary resolution. I've never seen a politician sign one of those things that had any real teeth. Like Chris was talking about, it's a resolution and not an ordinance, and they don't hold the force of law. And so, of course, a politician's going to push the weakest, most watered-down version, takes everything off of them, takes all the pressure off of them, but doesn't actually, do anything. I mean, if you got a bunch of politicians out there who are signing on and saying, I support a Second Amendment sanctuary in such and such a county, if they're your state lawmakers, they're trying to take gun owners for a ride because odds are good. They're lazy, bone lazy, useless to the Second Amendment, haven't done anything in the legislature to pass pro-gun bills or to do anything meaningful to stop gun control. And so they just pop up when they see an opportunity. Because again, like we said, there's some great people pushing this stuff, some good people at least who want to do something, and leave it to a bunch of freaking politicians to go, hey, this is the wave we can ride. This is the way we can get some free support. We don't have to do anything. All we got to do is sign a piece of paper saying we support a Second Amendment sanctuary county, and we're going to get a bunch of gun owners, drink eaten out of our hands. Now, you politicians suck.
Yeah.
You suck.
Yeah, if you're a politician and you're in Pennsylvania, it's really easy. Pass preemption reform and pass constitutional carry. And that will make Pennsylvania a Second Amendment sanctuary. If you're in Ohio, pass stand your ground law, constitutional carry, and beef up your preemption law. That's how you make these states Second Amendment sanctuaries. That's it. That's it right there.
Hey,
some people are confused is what we're saying here. I'm sorry, Patrick. Maybe not picking this up. So Kevin, watching in New York, says, if it wasn't for the Republican Party, the Democrat Party would have taken our guns a long time ago. How does that Iowa guy even get a voice on this platform? And then Don says, I'm wondering the same thing. I lost my spot here. He said, let's see here. He says, I got on 5 minutes ago. All this is Republican bash party. Unless I missed something. Yeah, Don, you missed a lot. You guys
missed about 20 years. You got to
pay attention because this is a state-by-state conversation in some regards, but it's also not. Because right now, if you haven't realized this, like I said 20 minutes ago, there's no more Republican versus Democrat going on. For God's sakes, Kevin, I work in Albany on behalf of the New York State Firearms Association. Do you know how many Republican lawmakers voted last year with Cuomo on the safe storage laws?
Who voted
on red flags? I do.
Who voted in the SAFE Act?
The Republicans had control, bro. The issue is not about party loyalty. The issue is about gun owner loyalty. And these organizations, and tonight I'm sitting behind an Iowa gun owners banner, but last week it was a New York State Firearms Association banner. The organizations you see here, we're not interested in protecting parties. We never were. That crap never worked. If we're not going to be honest enough with ourselves to acknowledge the fact that we have a wolf in the chicken coop, coyote, whatever you want to call it, then we're going to lose every time.
Well, every time a whole collective of people just wantonly throws their support behind a party, that party takes that collective group for a friggin' ride.
Exactly.
I mean, if every Republican in America could sit there and go, wait a minute, I can do whatever I want for or against the Second Amendment, and all these gun owners are going to show up and vote for me anyway, those freaking Republicans will pass gun control all day long. So just pick your
state, Kevin. Just pick your state. I mean, Chris already said in Pennsylvania, It's Republicans who are not only co-sponsoring, they are sponsoring the red flag gun seizure bill.
They're the ones.
In Wyoming. I was out in Cheyenne on Sunday, Monday, and most of Tuesday. It's Republicans in Cheyenne who sponsored Fix NICS gun control. It's Republicans who supported the 3-day waiting period. And it was Republicans who voted down gun-free zone repeal law 2 days ago. Pick your state, man. It's everywhere. Well, there's one less of these people in Minnesota today. I was going to say they're in Minnesota too, but there's less of them.
We better wait up here. Patrick was trying to
I got something to say.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
And this is going to make Kevin even madder. The fact that there are many, many members of the American Firearms Coalition. And so I am who actually give these guys on here that you hate, Kevin, money. So head on over to joinafc.org. Here's the reality, and I'll take the opportunity since somebody mentioned the opportunity earlier. Joinafc.org. Become a member of the American Firearms Coalition today. Michael Bloomberg, who is surging in the polls, whether you want to believe it or not, nationally, is a billionaire. He has $70 billion. He funds the anti-gun movement. Even while he's running for president, it's even worse. He's passing out checks unlike anything you've ever seen. So we're encouraging everybody to join the American Firearms Coalition at joinafc.org. If you believe that money is dirty or money is wrong, or I see this oftentimes, I shouldn't have to pay to exercise or to have my rights. Well, yeah, in constitutional carry, that's what takes care of that. But in reference to what you people say that about, is that, yeah, we need money to fight for your Second Amendment rights. It's just a fact. Okay.
Well, I never saw a radical lefty who said I shouldn't have to pay to take away your gun rights.
Well, how does anybody think we got our freedom from England?
Yeah,
we paid with blood.
We sent pixie dust and emissaries to the crown and said, "Please, sir." Bullshit. They had to get guns.
Exactly.
Listen to this. This guy Denny Houck just said over here in the OGO page. He said, "How did our forefathers gain independence for our country? By becoming dangerous men with a singular purpose, and it became very obvious at the time for dangerous men to make a return in this country to ensure we preserve our rights and freedoms." That's exactly right. They were dangerous men with one single purpose, and they had guns. They got paid when they could get paid from our Congress, but it's just the way it is.
Yeah, how many times did you hear it about George Washington? And I see this too, like, oh, he's got so much money, he's just going to run over us. Bloomberg. It's like, how many times did you read about these guys during the Revolution? They had no shoes, right, walking in the snow, but they still won. Okay, we're not going to outspend these people, folks, unless all, thousands of y'all watching this thing all of a sudden drop in $1,000, okay? We're not going to compete there, but we do have the people, and if we can rise up at a percentage high enough, we can win these political battles, not only in the legislature, but even in Washington, D.C. The fact is, we win sometimes, but we don't win all the time, and we need to win all the time.
I forget which of George Washington's aides told him this, but and George Washington quickly adopted this as his strategy. But one of his aides told him one time, he's like, "We don't have to win this war against the British. We just cannot lose this war against the British." And that's exactly the same way. I mean, this fight we are all in here tonight together with each other, it is a very old, a very traditional, a very American fight. And we just can't lose it. We can't lose it.
Right. And I think one thing we don't have on our side, and it's tragic and horrible, but is these high-profile mass shootings. Okay. But that doesn't mean you have to do what Florida did when all the Republicans voted for gun control.
You got to do what Ohio is doing.
Yeah, it's what Ohio's trying to do after the shooting up there. That's a disadvantage for us. But guess what? You just got to beat them in the head politically and say, one nut job is not going to determine my rights. And the only way to do that is to scare the legislators of their seats.
Well, and I would say the members of these organizations are extremely dangerous people. We are the most politically dangerous.
Amen.
I'll tell you, in Minnesota, there is no organization, there is no collective group of people, there is nobody, I would argue probably ever, probably in the last 100 years, who is as politically dangerous as the members of Minnesota gun rights are. And we have proven that over and over and over again. If you go on to these lawmakers' walls, if you just like look them up, just like Google Minnesota State Legislature, just pick a name and go look them up on Facebook. I almost guarantee you that there's an article on there about me, about Minnesota gun rights, about the guys you see on screen right here, and they are screaming like stuck pigs about to get skewered, trying to shut us down. But they can't. We are very, very politically dangerous people, and that's how we win our freedom. And again, I go back to these teetotalers and these people.
Yeah,
it's like you can't win a war that way. You don't win a country that way,
because that's what we're in.
You don't win your freedoms that way. Oh, I mean, they have disguised this war on freedom as a political conversation for 50 years. They have sat there, both the Republicans and the Democrats, the Republicans, they say, oh, those Democrats, they're not so bad. We just see things from a little bit of a different direction. Jeez. And the Democrats sit there and go, oh, those Republicans, they're not too bad. They want the same thing we want. They just see things differently. We saw it with John McCain when he was running against Obama. Anytime an American citizen would say, Obama is a piece of crap, John McCain was the first guy to hop in there and go, no. He's a good family man who loves this country. We just don't see eye to eye on a few things. It's that conversation. Now, it was to disguise the war against our freedoms. Well, now that curtain's been pulled back, and now everybody, most people at least, can see it for what it is, a total and complete war against our freedoms. And it was happening long before Obama. It was happening long before the last couple of years, the last 5 years. It's been going on a long time, and that's what we're fighting here.
Yep. And because the Republicans had agreed to the rules of engagement that the Democrats and that these people had set down, that's why we kept getting losers like Bob Dole and John McCain and Mitt Romney. And that's why Republicans kept getting their asses kicked at election time, because we were agreeing to the left's culture war rules of engagement. That's why I am quite thankful that Trump, for some of his shortcomings when it comes to the Second Amendment, has come along and taught us all, showed us all, polarized this entire situation, and showed us exactly what the left is, what their vision for this country is, and how much is at stake. Throw off those old rules of war. This is a blood sport. It's a fight to the death for this country.
We were involved in a throwdown in Wyoming this whole last 10 days on stopping this GOP-backed Fix Nix bill. And apparently someone from the Laramie Boomerang, and then I went to the AP, was watching our Wyoming gun owners videos. And you mentioned it's a blood sport. I mean, they hit a big hit piece on Wyoming gun owners and myself because of how we talked. And apparently I said, we fight like animals. And when we do that, we will be successful, Dorr said. Politics is a 2x4 across the face. And as gun owners, we're either taking that 2x4 across the face or are bashing somebody else.
Nice.
I guess they didn't like that. That made statewide news. And they were mad because I called Representative Dan Furphy a loser and a idiot for sponsoring gun control. I mean, that's the thing for all the Christians who are watching. I got someone watching right now in Iowa says, Christ said in the Bible, render unto Caesar what is Caesar,
right,
and give unto God the things that are God. And Cameron, I'm not sure 100% what you mean by that comment. I can't quite tell the context, but I think if you're saying that we need to roll over and take it, I mean, again, we would be in English territory today if our founding, if that's what you meant, we'd be in English territory today if our founding fathers talked like
that. Get that cancerous bad doctrine out of here. Just take a hike and leave. Get out.
Stuff, I mean, that stuff is always contexted by what Christ actually meant, which was exactly the whole last part of the sentence. Give unto God what is God's. There's no man-made law that is supreme. if it violates our natural rights given to us by God, I don't care if it comes from the Supreme Court. I don't care if it comes to the state legislature. We have these rights that are inherent. They do not come from the Constitution. They don't come from the Bill of Rights. They don't come from Congress. They come from God, and they cannot be taken from us, even if it comes from the Supreme Court. And the sooner that we understand that as a movement of gun owners, the better off our gun rights are going to be.
Amen.
I mean, honestly, like, Chris is talking about bad doctrine there, and what Aaron's just saying. Thank God that the Christians, so many of them who won our country, didn't believe any of that crap.
Yeah.
You never saw a Revolutionary War soldier standing on the battle, handing his rifle over to the British, going, "Hey, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's." Am I right? Am I right? You know, never happened. Never happened. They shoved a bayonet through their skulls and won a country.
Yeah.
And won a country. Thank God they did. And we, at least, and the members of these organizations are going to fight to preserve that country.
Brutally, if we can. Brutally, if the situation requires it.
Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you what, in Minnesota right here, just the other day, we had a Republican Senator, Paul Anderson, was sponsoring universal gun registration with a bunch of Democrats and the Republican establishment in Minnesota. They're all rhinos. Maybe there's one who is not, maybe one, but the rest are total piece of crap rhinos. And so we exposed this rhino. Yes, we did. We stuck a camera in his face and we said, "Senator, why would you sponsor universal gun registration?" And he looked in the camera and he went, "Don't give these guys any money. Don't give these guys any money." And he runs away. But we couldn't hide from the fact that he had sponsored the bill. And so Minnesota gun rights members started pounding him with Facebook messages, emails, and phone calls. And every single one of them, he was responding, "These guys are a scam. These guys are a con. These guys are crooks. Don't believe them. Don't believe them." And all these gun owners went, "But I'm looking at the bill, Senator Anderson.
Your name is right here.
You sponsored the bill. I have never, ever supported an infringement on our Second Amendment rights. Not ever. But we're looking at the bill, Senator." Basically, MGR members beat him so badly that in less than 48 hours,
Whipped his ass.
he came out and said, we've decided, my wife and I have decided I'm not going to run for re-election. This is just too hard.
Really?
And, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, it happened just yesterday. Just beat him to death. They beat him to political death.
Is this a guy who's like a career politician, or what's the?
Oh yeah. I mean, he's a sitting state senator.
Incumbent.
Was there some 30-year?
20-year, he said, Ben, 20, right at 20 years in the press release, you said?
I don't know if he'd been in the legislature that long. He was going on about his 20 years of political service, public service. I'm not sure.
Was this guy, does he have an opponent, or what's the deal? Do we know?
No, not so far. He's in a swing district, and so the Republicans were hoping to help him pass some gun control in order to win some votes from some Democrats. And so when we met with the Republican caucus and Paul Gazelka,
I was gonna say, don't fail to mention that Paul Gazelka got down on his knees and begged.
He begged me and this organization, Minnesota Gun Rights, begged us not to go after Paul Anderson, to lay off of him. He begged and begged and begged. And we said, "Are you going to pull him back in line? Are you going to stop him from doing this? Are you going to jerk his chain and make sure he doesn't do this crap?" He said, "No, we're not going to do that. We got to win this election for him." I said, "Well, then it's total political war, Paul. It's total political war." And it has been ever since. Oh, and they scream and they scream and they scream about MGR, and the situation is so toxic. But Minnesota gun rights members beat this guy. And
he wasn't the only one. MGR there was two
I forgot about
Republicans in that state Senate caucus who supported UBCs, and Lion Scott Jensen already announced he's getting out. Yeah. I mean, MGR has cleaned out both of them.
Both of them. So you're going to sit here and say, you shouldn't beat on the Republicans, guys. Well, look, Minnesota just lost 2 rhinos. We might get some great Second Amendment champions in there. But a lot of you who sit here and trash talk these organizations and these wonderful people would sit here and say, no, don't talk bad about the Republican. Just vote against the Democrat, vote for the Republican. And all we would still have are anti-gun rhinos. But no, gun owners did their job.
I took like 5 of my kids up there and helped you, and we lit dropped the dog crap out of that district that day. And gosh, we put out like 3,000, 4,000 flyers in one day, all across that day.
Well, then, okay, if we're going to claim credit in Minnesota,
I was going to say, let's keep on going here. Everybody,
I had the pleasure of going up there and running camera ops for Ben last week for all these videos that he's talking about. It was cathartic for me. It was like taking a vacation. Got to get in front of these people's faces and just beat the hell out of them with truth.
Oh yeah.
On camera. So much fun.
It gets toxic as hell. It gets nasty. I mean, again, even now, people in the Minnesota gun rights comment section here are going, my gosh, guys, they're releasing all sorts of nasty articles about you. They're attacking you all over the place. Yeah, that's what the establishment does when you call them for their betrayals on gun owners. That's the price you pay. That's the price you pay to win your freedom. And there's nothing better, to be totally honest, there's nothing better in life than to be loved by your best friends and hated by your worst enemies. Boy, that's a good feeling. It's a good feeling.
That's right.
John's in New York State. He's asking, so Aaron, are you saying that we need to vote for Republicans and or Democrats as long as they support gun rights? But how do we be sure they're on our side? That's a good question. That's a great question, actually. Yeah, that's what we're saying here is we have to vote for the pro-gun candidate. And yeah, there's not a lot of pro-gun Democrats right now. There's no question about that. But there's also a lot of Republicans who suck when it comes to gun rights as well. All the organizations you're watching tonight, John, including the New York State Firearms Association, issue candidate surveys at election time. And it's the candidate survey program that is your go-to source for finding out where your candidates stand. Because here's the deal. The way the candidate program works, caucus leadership, whether it's in Des Moines, whether it's in Albany, whether it's in Atlanta, whether it's in Columbus, whatever the case may be, caucus leaders get our survey. They immediately email all of their candidates, and they'll either say sign it or don't sign it. That's how it works. And then after that directive goes down, some candidates will still sign it and some candidates will not. And that is when you can begin to figure out where your candidate stands. And what our organizations like to do then is we release our surveys. We don't hide them like the NRA does. You can see the question for yourself. More than that, we will give you the survey and you can go and talk to your candidates, whether it's an incumbent or an open seat. You can talk to the candidates at a forum and say, I care a lot about my Second Amendment rights, my freedom, and I want you to sign this very simple 8 or 9 question survey from, whichever organization you're there on behalf of. And if you won't do it, then I'll know where you stand. And if you do it, I'll know where you stand. And using that candidate survey program, we are able to then figure out where exactly these people stand, because a non-answer is most certainly an answer when it comes to our gun rights, when it comes to these candidate surveys. In fact, we actually have a lot of fun with this crap because, way back in, what was that? 2014 in Iowa with Joni Ernst, and there's a 5-way primary back then. We had 4 or 5 of the candidates who surveyed, including who went to be, I forget his name. Never mind, doesn't matter. But Joni Ernst wouldn't do it. And we put out a bounty. We called it our gun rights bounty. And we said we give a free Glock 19 to the first gun owner who could get Joni Ernst to sign her candidate survey on record. And I think, so we're not only do we give it to you, we strongly encourage gun owners to look at the survey, see what it's all about. And if your candidate won't sign it, that's your evidence. That's the story. That's the proof right there. This person sucks. And they're only using their pro-gun statements, insofar as they make them, as campaign fodder. That's how you find out. And so all the groups you're watching tonight will make sure that you know the answer to that, because we publish all of our survey results.
If you're watching Ohio right now, you know what's going on right now, and our candidate surveys are already out. Our survey is our primary is coming up. I think it's March 17th. St. Patrick's Day is primary day in Ohio. And I just got done writing some absolutely blistering ads against some absolute rhinoceros Republicans that have refused to fill out our candidate survey, or who voted against gun rights in the last 2 years. And it's going to be very politically painful. Like Ben said a few minutes ago, the gun owners are these politicians. They're terrified of gun owners that are members of these organizations, because we are political killers. We don't give any leeway for these scumbags and these losers. If we can, we will absolutely axe them with a political axe of truth, so that gun owners can make their own decisions about who is really pro-gun and who is not. So,
well, and that's
it's
just
hunting season in Ohio and soon in Pennsylvania.
And I'll tell you what, if you know that your Republican is a piece of crap, build up a little courage if you have to. Call him on the phone and yell at him. Go, hey, you piece of crap, Rhino. Chew him out.
Sure.
There's nothing that freaks out a politician like getting chewed up and spit out by a constituent. Freaks them out. Freaks them
Run
out.
them through the meat grinder.
Absolutely. There's just because, I don't want to have a Democrat, and all I got's this Republican here, and he's going to win anyway. That's no reason not to freaking scream at him. That's no reason not to give him a piece of your mind and say, look, buddy, you may be the Republican, you may win this election coming up here, but if you keep acting like this, I'm going to tell my friends, I'm going to tell my family, we're going to whatever, we're going to let drop your district, I'm going to trash your name to everybody you know. Just light them up.
This is not brand new political theory. For those of you who haven't caught on yet, this is exactly what the Democrat Party has done for the last 15 years. They have gone after and systematically removed the blue dogs by running absolute far left lunatics against them in primaries and axing those blue dogs out. You want to know why the Democrats have systematically gone insane? It's because the radicals are driving the party. Gun owners need to do the exact same thing to the Republican Party. They've been courting the left. They've been going over there saying, maybe we can appease the middle. No, what gun owners need to do is drag that entire conversation to the right by being militant about their gun rights, by going after these losers, these lunatics, going after them in primaries and dragging the entire conversation over in the other direction.
Yeah, it's true. Though. Yeah, no, Mark says I always chew ass. He says over here.
Mark does.
That's what happened here in Minnesota with this Paul Anderson. That's what I'm saying here. The people who were messaging him were sending us all of their emails, their correspondences, and these people were not being nice with him. These gun owners were burning him alive through email, just lighting him on fire. He was freaking out, terrified. And now he's not running for re-election. That's a win. That's a big win.
Because what it does is it opens up that seat for somebody who is far, far better. That's what needs to happen here.
Absolutely. So even if we don't have like a big program in your state, or even if there's not, if everything Aaron talked about with the survey program isn't the case, man, if you know that your politician is a piece of crap, let him have it. Become that guy and let him have it, because that's how you win.
Well, I'm gonna jump in here, guys, and I know we got to roll here in a second, but a lot of new members tonight. I'm gonna read a handful of them here. If you're not yet a member, head on over to joinafc.org. I'll throw the sign up again here. Joinafc.org, guys. www.joinafc.org. We've got Terrence is in Grovetown, Georgia. He actually chipped in $125 to the fight.
Wow.
Guys. There's Andrew in Spokane, Washington, all the way out in the Northwest. There's Greg in Hanover, Pennsylvania. That's where they make the pretzels, right? They're in Hanover.
Yeah.
I think. Jeffrey in Ashland, Ohio. Charles in Idaho chipped in $85. Very nice of you there, Charles. I could go on and on and on. Randy in Colbert, Georgia. I could go on and on. But you've heard it here tonight, guys. The war is on. It's raging around us at all times. If you're not in it, you're just out. I mean, that's what I say on my show here in Georgia all the time. But the guys you see here are fighting the political battles, so we don't have to do the other battle. You know, take the battle axe off the wall there in Chris's office. You know what I'm saying, guys? We can win. And I'm not trying to be preachy, but everybody's got to get skin in the game. And you don't have to be nice to these people. I actually encourage you not to be nice, and I think we've made that clear tonight.
Yeah.
So, guys, you want to sign off a bit? Got anything last thing to say there, or any?
Well, I
other
want
points?
to give one shout out back to the people in Ohio. They're asking how many emails have been sent into the Ohio General Assembly demanding our stand your ground law, which, quite frankly, is the best stand your ground law legislation in America. We just have to get it passed. 177,683 emails have been sent into the Ohio General Assembly since we launched this brand new mobilization platform back in December. 177,000. That's bigger than any other political group in Ohio for sure.
Wow.
We are talking federal level engagement here. And it's only because Ohio gun owners members and Pennsylvania Firearms Association members are the finest grassroots gun rights fighters in America, bar none. Bar none. Well done. Well done.
After yesterday,
They just haven't passed it yet, so that would mean Missouri would be better, or
This is
Iowa or Wyoming.
Mega state. We got more population here than Iowa, Wyoming, and Missouri combined.
I think the safest thing to say is all these state groups are the best state groups in their state, hands down.
Amen.
Absolutely.
That's the truth.
Absolutely.
People
Especially
are asking about what happened in some of the rest of these states. Do we got some time here? What's the situation, guys?
Well, let's make it pretty quick, I guess. Let's just roll through them. Go ahead, Aaron.
Well, yeah, it's been a big week. I mean, Wyoming gun owners, you guys know it's been huge out there. Session began on Monday. Senator Rothfuss's bill, Senate File 80, was defeated. That was a 3-day waiting period bill. That bill is dead for the year, which is great for you guys. The Fix NICS bill was the more devious bill, guys. That was House Bill 59. That bill was sponsored all by Republicans. It was mental health gun control, which is all the rage all across America right now. That bill was defeated as well for the time being. It may come back yet. We have to keep an eye on that. But it is dead for today. It is dead for right now. They've also, though, in Wyoming, shot down Senator Bouchard's bill to end gun-free zones in the state. There's a secondary bill in the House moving along right now that might still have a chance. We have to wait and see. A lot of Republican rhinos that suck really bad in Wyoming. We have to wait and see what happens out there. Missouri had a big week as well. For all the Missourians who are watching, we had a big committee hearing on Thursday in the Senate chamber on Senator Burleson's bills, our bills to end gun-free zones, as well as SAPA legislation. We have approaching 20,000, I think it is, emails in support of ending gun-free zones in Missouri, and that's why there's so many people in that state capital who are all of a sudden paying attention. And so it's been a great big fight out there. SAPE legislation as well got heard. That's got 65 co-sponsors, I think it is, so far in the House. So, but hearings are great. They didn't vote on it. That's supposed to happen next week on Thursday. So for the Missourians, contact the Senate Transportation Committee, Senate Public Safety Committee, and pressure them big time. So a lot going on there. Iowa is working on all kinds of chicken shit, bull crap bills, all designed to find a way to get out from underneath the pressure on constitutional carry. More on that on our platform for IGO later on. Well, it'll be next week now. And in New York, big doings coming this week in New York. Well, actually, this week they're out of session this week. But as far as the fight, the bill draft is almost complete. And for all the New Yorkers who are watching, we're going to have an amazing gun bill unveiled in both chambers in just a couple short days. It's going to be a great, great program that we're about to unveil in New York State. So a lot going on.
I'll hit Georgia real quick. I can relate to what Aaron said about the chicken crap gun bills that are coming out. Establishments absolutely trying to get a gun bill passed. total crap, cleanup of past stuff that they screwed up on. But encouragement for gun owners is Senate Bill 150, which is the Georgia Lautenberg gun ban. Absolutely reaming these people in the Senate Judiciary Committee. So much so that Senator Stone is the chairman and Senator Heath, 2 of the 7 Republicans who voted for the gun control last year, are retiring. So that's some good news. Keep up the heat there, guys. Good. And they're trying to buy you off. Do not be bought off. But we're certainly that is the biggest threat to gun owners for sure at the Capitol in Georgia this year, and y'all are pounding them. So keep the heat up and check us out over at Georgia Gun Owners to find out more details and action items on that particular piece of legislation, guys. So on to the next state. What's happening, guys?
Go ahead, Chris.
I'll do Pennsylvania real quick. Obviously, Mike Bloomberg is setting up a great big monstrous machine. We didn't even talk about this tonight, but he is building a gun. Whether or not he is successful, this whole presidential campaign is about backstopping his federal level and state level efforts to pass gun control. He has hired 90 field staffers for Pennsylvania. He's paying $7,000 a pop for those field staffers, folks. I mean,
a month?
A month. $7,000 a month.
What?
In the same in Ohio, incidentally. But he's paying
that usually pays like $1,500, folks, or $2,000.
Yeah, on earth.
Yeah, it's unbelievable amounts. State directors, state chairmen are getting like $30,000 a pop. I mean, he's paying huge amounts of money to hire the best people in any state. So he's got that going for him. On the other side, we've got Governor Tom Wolf, who used his budget address. I was there last week when he did this, but he's asking the legislature to appropriate $10 million for his gun control initiatives, red flags, universal background checks, all this stuff. We are building up Pennsylvania Firearms Association to be the grassroots mobilization powerhouse to fight back against this bullshit. So go to pfamember.com, sign up and become a member of Pennsylvania Firearms Association if you're not one already. We are going to be modeling all this grassroots stuff you've been hearing about throughout this show, throughout our previous episodes. We're going to be doing the same thing. Totally ball-busting gun rights organization in Pennsylvania. Go there and sign up and be a part of that. Here in Ohio, we have a lot of stuff going on. Governor DeWine has started up his own 501c4 dark money organization. He's writing great, big, huge checks. He's a very wealthy individual. Anybody who spends their entire career in federal politics as a U.S. senator, you can go there a pauper and you come out a fabulously wealthy person. He's stroking huge checks now to this anonymous organization that's renewing his push for his gun control bill, which we have beat the living crap out of in the Ohio General Assembly. That's going on. We've had leadership meetings. I've met with the Speaker of the House a couple of times now about gun rights bills. There is movement now on stand your ground law and constitutional carry. We're beating the living crap out of a guy named George Lang because he hasn't been doing the job he's elected to do. We're fighting gun control. We're pushing for gun rights. We're using the gun rights legislation to fight back against the gun control. A lot of irons in the fire. Be paying attention next week. We got some exciting stuff that's going to be happening in Ohio and Pennsylvania, incidentally. So that's kind of where those states are.
I already talked about our big win in Minnesota last week with, or I guess this week with Paul Anderson knocking himself out of the race. So that's a huge thing. That's what we've been working on the last little bit here was pressure on them. Our session kicked off this last Tuesday. So there's going to be a hearing in the House Ways and Means Committee to go over some of the financial aspects of implementing red flag laws. Now, there's not going to be any public input. Nobody gets to speak. So very typical, that we wouldn't be surprised if Lazy Rob wiggles his way in there somehow. But that's coming up next week. Yeah, we're going to see what happens with this upcoming session. We actually have, I'm not going to spill the beans just yet. Some very exciting news coming up here very quickly with some work that we're doing with lawmakers in the state capitol to maybe see some fun things happening. I'm just going to keep it there for now. Session, like I said, session just kicked off. We have several long months ahead of us, a big fight ahead of us, but some very promising things in front of us too. So that's what I got for Minnesota for right now.
There are a lot of folks who are asking how to get more involved. I want to mention for all the groups you see here tonight, guys, there is a way to join up. It's very simple. It's very fast. I'm just going to do a quick run through for Minnesota. It's join MG. What is it, Ben? What's your
joinmgr.com.
All right, joinmgr.com for Minnesota. For Georgia, it's joinggo.com. For Ohio, it's joinogo.com. For Iowa, it's joinigo.com. And right now, our haters are all like, oh my God, they're copying themselves. Yes, of course we are, you idiots. For Wyoming, it's joinwygo.com. For Missouri, it's joinmofc.com. For New York, it's joinnysfa.com. Wisconsin, joinwifc.com. I think we got them all. And Idaho, joinisaa.com. Our good friend Greg could not be here tonight, but I did want to mention a big shout out for his guys in Idaho. Today in Boise, the ISAA organization had a monster event with only 2 days notice, and they had almost 400 gun owners come out there and protest and march around Bloomberg's offices today in Boise. It was a phenomenal event given the weather and given the short duration they had to plan this. Just nailed it. They just nailed it in Idaho. So if you're in Idaho, there's only one organization in the state, period. They happen to be one just like this. So go to joinisaa.com. A lot going on, guys, in a lot of states. That's where you want to get involved. I think for folks,
if you're not from any of those states, join the American Firearms Coalition.
Yep.
We're going to do everything we can possibly do in as many places as we can possibly do it. And that's joinafc.org.
That's right.
That's an org. Joinafc.org.
You bet.
Good stuff, guys. Big crowd tonight. Thanks, everybody who joined up. And we hope to see you all next week, depending on everyone's schedule. Could be during the week, could be on a weekend. We don't know. But thank you for all the support, and get out there and kick some butt in your states, right, guys?
Yes.
Amen. Preach it. Share this video all over the place if you would.
Yeah.
We want to grow this out. We took a little hiatus there. Obviously things are busy. It's legislative season. We're going out there and kicking ass as much as we possibly can. Share this stuff all over the place. That way this crowd gets bigger each and every time. We get more people involved here. The goal is to get a whole bunch of ass beaters all over America just hounding on these politicians. So thanks for tuning in tonight. Share this video all over the place. We'll be back likely next week. And speaking for Pennsylvania, Ohio, we love you guys.
Take care, guys. Have a good night.
Yeah. Have a good night, everybody.
Bye-bye.